Good morning. My name is Cindy Hackett. I'm a member of the Tahoma Unitarian Universalist Congregation Board of Trustees, so I work for you. My pronouns are she and her. Because it's such a day of thankfulness, I would like to start our gathering to say that I respectfully acknowledge that I speak to you today from occupied Puyallup ancestral land. I pay respect to elders, past and present, and I extend that respect to their descendants and all Indigenous people. I'm grateful. We welcome all who are joining us today with a longing for community, the hope for peace, and those of you who are seeking justice. We are a diverse congregation, and we encourage each one who comes through our doors to find their own truth and belief. We invite all to join us in a search for meaning and community, guided by reason, respect for each other, and always, and mostly important to me, love. The wonderful thing, or a wonderful thing, about this virtual platform is, number one, that we get to meet at all, and number two, that we have an opportunity to welcome guests from outside our traditional geographic area. We have had visitors from across the country and even across the ocean. So a special welcome to our new friends and our returning friends from near and far away. I invite you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Links to the video version of this service will be posted there this week, as well as on our website. We begin with an announcement of Thanksgiving this morning. Thanks to the generosity of the congregation in response to our recent communication, our recent respect for financial support. We are happy to report that donations are back on track with our budget for the fiscal year. We give thanks for all the contributions from those that are continuing their regular monthly contributions, and we give thanks to those who have gone above and beyond to support the congregation, especially knowing that some in our congregation are not able to give what they typically would like to. We also give thanks to everyone who gives us your support by being here. That is so important to us. So thank you, one and all. You can find all of our program announcements this week in the e-news and listed on the church calendar. But here's some of the highlights. And just a note, the cool thing about the church calendar is there when you click on the item that you're interested in, it kind of magically gives you all the information you want to get to that event. I like that. Immediately following our worship service today, we'll be hosting a virtual coffee time with Erien, and we'll post that Zoom link in the chat. At 12 p.m., join Doug Taylor for a Soul Matters deep dive into what does it mean to be a community of healing. And you can find that link in the chat also. At 11:30, children are invited to join Nancy Slocum for Kids Chapel. And you can email Nancy for that Zoom link. Later today at 5 p.m., Erien will host her final movie group. That hurts my heart to say that. With us, with a Star Wars chat. On Monday night, Nancy Slocum will host a book discussion with parents, Raising White Kids, Bringing Up Children in a Racially Unjust America. Tuesday, November 24th, Associated Ministries will host an interfaith celebration of gratitude on Zoom. And for some of us who haven't been able to get there in the past on real legs, in real space, having a Zoom option for me is a very, very welcome option. Each week on Tuesday nights, parents of children and youth are invited to join Nancy Slocum for a parent drop-in on Zoom. Also this Tuesday at 10, you can join Reverend Linda for a chat on tea time. There will not be a chat on Thursday. Please note that, as the virtual church offices will be closed Wednesday through Friday for a Thanksgiving holiday break. You may or may not know that since we've been operating in COVID times, who knew that would be a word or phrase, everything takes more time, everything. And our staff has frequently been working much longer hours and more days each week. So we give thanks that they'll be having this break. Thank you for your ongoing financial support that makes all of this possible. These programs, our amazing staff who create and facilitate the programs, and the connections that we make and that I depend on through our congregation. Now, let us prepare to gather in worship.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be together today. We gather in complicated times. Our political system is strained. Outcomes are not certain. There is reason for both hope and for worry. We approach a fraught celebration, a moment of gratitude and community grounded in genocide and a tidy myth about empty lands and seekers of freedom. And tradition tells us that we should be with family, chosen and given, and still we cannot hug each other and have a meal together, telling old stories and laughing. We breathe. Our breath, we know, may endanger our beloveds or theirs infect us. We gather today in complicated times, and yet, we come together in these moments, electrons beaming a presence. Still, we come together to celebrate, to give thanks, to lift up the gifts of this community, to lift up our gratitude for all that we are able to do, for what we can do for each other and give to each other, to remember what endures in the midst of uncertainty and complications, in the midst of dangers that surround us. We are here to celebrate and be grateful for each other, for the life that we have and the community that surrounds us. It is, as always, so good to be together.
Please join with me in the unison reading as the amazing Nancy lights our chalice. We light this chalice in deep respect for the mystery and holiness of life, in honor and gratitude for those who have gone before, with love and compassion for those who dwell among us, and with hope and faith for generations to come.
Good morning. I am Nancy Slocum. I am the Director of Religious Exploration here at Tahoma Unitarian Universalist congregation. And this is our time for all ages, the time when if we were in person, that we would have people come up and the kids would come up and join me up front for a little story. And I just want to say, Erien, several times now you have referred to me as the amazing Nancy Slocum. And I feel like I should be like in Spangles, like a circus performer or something, you know, the amazing Nancy. Anyway, come on up, folks, listen in. So today our service, we're talking about giving thanks, about being grateful, gratitude. But we're also saying goodbye today to Erien. Erien has been our ministerial intern. Now, I don't know if many of you kids have really even met Erien. So John, I'm going to have you spotlight Erien for just a moment so we can have that visual of her smiling face in front of us. And Erien has been our ministerial intern here. There she is. Hi, Erien. She's been our ministerial intern here for almost a year now that she's been here. And what a year it has been. Who could have ever predicted what this year would have ended up being like? And I think maybe she was kind of a gift from beyond to us, because we sure found that she brought a lot of gifts with her to this place when she came, and that she has helped us get through and get going with this whole pandemic and doing services online. And that's just been really great. So I said she's been an intern. I don't know if y'all know what an intern is. An intern, I don't know, have you ever had a student teacher in school? A student teacher is a teacher, someone who's going to school to become a teacher. So they're a student, but they're a teacher. And then they come and they go into a school and they get to practice teaching. Well, Erien is like a student minister, an intern minister. And she is going to school and becoming a minister, and she wanted a place where she could get some more skills doing that. And she called us and she talked to Reverend Linda and said, I'd like to come and intern at your church, be a part of your congregation for a year. And so here she is. And it's as I said, it's been quite a year. And now it's time for her to move on to whatever is next in her life. And I gotta say, it is hard to say goodbye. It is always hard saying goodbye. I know there have been lots of times in my life when I've had to say goodbye to friends or to places that I love. I know I only go back to the places where I lived when I was growing up once every several years, and it's always hard to leave. It's always hard to say goodbye. Sometimes there's things that I've had in my life that I've loved, and sometimes I've had to say goodbye to those things. Like I lost something very dear to me one time, and it was hard to say goodbye to it. Really hard to say goodbye. But I've also found that it is so helpful to me when I'm saying goodbye if I can think about all the wonderful gifts that that person or that place or that thing brought to me. And so as we say goodbye to Erien, I think about all the gifts she has brought to us and all the ways she's jumped into our congregation and been a part of us. And she and I were talking just this morning about how she really wasn't part of working with the kids very much, but that's because she came to learn some new things. She wanted to stretch, to do some different stuff. And so she had worked with kids a lot before. And so she made the choice to help her grow. She wanted to do some things that she hadn't done much of. So she focused on working with the adults more than with the kids. But that doesn't mean she hasn't had a tremendous effect on our program here for kids. We're going to miss her knowledge. We're going to miss her passions. We're going to miss her energy. You know, when my son was young, he and I used to go camping a lot. Actually, we still go camping. And one of our rituals, one of the things we always did when we would go camping is when we were leaving and we would be packing up camp, get the tent packed away and load up the car. The last thing we would do would be walk around the campsite and walk around the area around the campsite. And we would pick up any trash that we saw, and we would make sure that the fire pit was cleaned out, and that our goal was to make sure that we left things better than when we got there. We wanted that to be our gift to that place. And I think that's what I have to say about Erien, is that because she was here, she has made us better. She's made this place better. And I get a little emotional thinking about it. But it's a good way to be in the world, to always try to make any place we are, any contact we have with people, always to try and make it better. What are the gifts we can bring with us when we enter places, when we spend time with people, when we share our lives? So I encourage you always, look for the ways that you can make places better just by you being there. Just the way Erien has for us. You guys can't see Erien right now, but I can. She's breaking me up here. So I will send you all off with the words that we use when we sing you out of the sanctuary on Sunday mornings to your classes. And I'm going to ask Erien to especially pay attention to these words. We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your special life, we hold you in our love as you go. Take good care.
It's no fair. It's a rough transition. As I bring us into a time of generosity, as I invite you in, for those who are already giving, we appreciate you, and we are humbled by it in these hard times for everyone. But if you can give a little more, we would appreciate that as well, so that we can continue to offer services and provide the things that we need to help our continued community to stay strong in these tough times. Thank you. And please join with me as we read the dedication of the author. We dedicate ourselves and our offerings to the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of love we call community, both within and beyond these walls. Thank you.
It's going to be one of those kinds of mornings, I have said to Erien in the last couple of weeks that it's important for her to hear what we have to say, and I know she probably would prefer to just slip away, but I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful that we have this time together to speak our gratitude. It was, like Nancy said, about 15 months ago that I got an email from Tandy Rogers, our community affiliated community minister, and at that time a member of the UUA staff. And she asked if we might be able to host an intern for a year. She said that this intern needed to be near Seattle and was hoping for, as I say, a year-long full-time internship. Was it possible for us to help her out? Well, I was willing to have a conversation with her, but could make no promises. It's always hard to know how that can go. I saw her name, but didn't know how to say it. And there was some confusion about what her last name was, whether it was Hackett or Babcock or another combination of names. I saw several and was just not sure how to make sense of all of the names that she brought. But we set up a time to talk. And it was a lovely conversation, And I was impressed with her credentials. And so we started that process. I introduced her to the board and asked for their approval. We moved some budgeted money around and got the congregation to approve a small stipend for her and to get things, started to get things arranged. She and her husband, Ian, on his way to South Korea, where he was going to be stationed, came to our service, the first service in December last year. It was the first time to face, and her internship began. How little we knew then about what we would discover together with Erien. I don't think any of us could have imagined how quickly she would become a part of our community and how much she would bring to us over this year. I couldn't have imagined how sad I would be at this moment to say goodbye to her and to thank her for all that she brought us this year. She has become a good friend, and I am grateful for that friendship and for her presence in my life. There's a special gift for both congregation and intern when we enter into this kind of relationship. Surely a congregation gains so much from the work of talented ministers in formation. Those of you who were around for Matt know that that's true. Erien has brought fine skills as a teacher and as a preacher. She has brought a wealth of love and compassion, perspective and wisdom about congregational life, and a generosity of spirit that welcomes the world as it is, and she seeks to make it better with what she has in her hands. She seeks to remake for the good wherever she is. At least that's how I perceive her. I'll also say that when we were meeting in person, she was generous with the snacks at our staff meetings. We would some days arrive and there would be, bagels and cream cheese or other kinds of goodies would arrive and we'd be startled, right? We don't do that at staff meetings, but Erien brought that generosity and that level of hospitality to us in our staff. But I have to say, do not underestimate what she has received from us too. In my years at TUUC, I have known that this was a special congregation in so many ways. There's a quality of love and commitment here that has helped Tahoma endure through difficult times, a spirit of possibility that keeps the congregation moving along. And that has been a gift to Erien, a gift that we have been able to give to her, a gift of our community that has helped her to grow and helped her to change and understand what it means to be a minister. Ministry is one of those professions, there are many, but ministry is one that must be lived into, not learned from books or erudite lectures. It comes alive in the doing. Ministry must be practiced, even for those of us who have been in it a long time. Ministers are learning when we're doing it right, we're learning all the time. So to be offered the attention and care of a congregation while practicing her arts of ministry is a gift beyond measuring that we have given to Erien. Each and every one of you have been part of making Erien a better minister, a more skilled practitioner of her arts. Each of you have supported and cared for our wider religious community by giving your time and energy to her as she continues her path towards ordination and towards chaplaincy. Today we celebrate the mutual learning and growth that has happened, mutual gifts and graces that have been part of our year together. Today we'll say a tearful, maybe some fearful farewell in there as well, and offer our deep gratitude for what we have shared. Thank you, Erien, and thank you, TUUC. What a time we have had. So may it be.
So when I sat down to work on what I would say today, I decided that I would stick with what I know and what I learned to be my style while I was with you. And that's with a story. So sit back, relax, breathe in, breathe out, and come along as I take you on a story from my own history. When I was about 10 years old, I was staying with my grandparents. This was a time in my life when I went to stay with them often because I was beginning the tween art of fighting with my mother. This time was always an adventure with my grandparents. These are my father's parents. So we always went fishing. I learned how to do canning, and I had so many lessons about life with a boat, how to navigate the mighty Mississippi River, how to live in cycle with the earth as just part of how you were. However, there was a thing up to this point my grandfather did not include me in. This very sacred family coming of age, the act and art of saining minnows. Now, for those of you who didn't automatically jump to understanding what I'm talking about, saining minnows is a net fishing skill that fishermen use to catch their own minnow bait from local waters. This act not only keeps rivers healthier, but helps with the fish, helps you get more fish because they bite more often. I assume it's because fish like local and organic too. I don't know, that would be my guess. But the skill of seining, it's challenging in a very physical art form when done in the traditional manner that my grandfather and family use. And up to this point was the zone for men. But only up to that point. We'll get to that. After begging and making absurd promises that a 10-year-old makes when they want something, it was decided that I would learn. To this day, I think my grandmother had a hand in this decision, probably because I was driving her crazy in the house all day. just saying. She was like, oh, Steve, take her, please. So I honor that and appreciate it as now a mom. That's probably some truth. But I got to break my family's glass ceiling by learning an important coming of age tradition in my family. Now, it must be understood that my grandfather, like his grandfather and grandfathers before them, they took fishing and teaching seriously. The passing of tradition and the art of fishing were as close as humans could get to God in his eyes. In fact, he considered fishing his church. So his lessons around fishing lore were always profound, and they always echo to this day in my head and in my heart, in my soul, and manifest often in my hands and how I live in the world. So this is the stage on which I take you into the learning, okay? This is a family traditional skill, very, very stressed. I was so excited. The enthusiasm was pouring out of me. This was the secret and hidden world only my brothers and my uncle got to occupy, and soon it was going to be mine. I was jumping all over the place. And for those of you who know me from classes, understand, you benefit from me aging and experiencing life to where I'm calmer now. Just like, I know that's hard. But this excitement was not something my grandfather was enjoying. I could sense it. I remember the look on his face when I was sort of twitching around his fishing gear barn, like bouncing all over. But what I remember is I remember his stillness. His face and his body, he went completely still. He didn't have to say anything. He just sort of stood there, not moving, while my 10-year-old brain grappled with what I was going to do next. And then the oddity of my body sort of aligning itself with his posture and becoming calm like he was just sort of happened. And we simply stood there looking at each other in this barn that smelled of like wet mildew and fish guts. I was so excited to be there. And we were just staring at each other, breathing. And I remember having like a tiny flicker moment of going, oh my God, I've already blown my chance at this. But he just sort of did this crooked nod that he did, like this one, like, and said, the best excitement is in listening. And I was like, oh, even at 10, I knew that was kind of profound. And I put it in my pocket. That's all he said. That's all he did before he pulled this net out and we began to check it over. Now, for those of you who've never seen a seining net, I want you to like play some imagination games with me. You're going to picture a volleyball net, but 40 feet long. So it's got two sticks and there's a rectangular net, right? There's some weights on what you would perceive as the top of the net. We'll get to why they're there. And some floats on what you would perceive as the bottom of the net, 40 feet long. And the holes are really small, right? And he used a natural fiber net. Now they're like made out of plastic, but this was a natural fiber net when I was a kid. And we went over it for rips and loose ties and tears, one by one, every little connection. This intentional way of checking the net was repeated in how we checked all of the gear and the boat. And it was explained in my grandfather's deep and mellow voice. He explained how everything worked, what it was, and then he got to this point. And this is the moment my grandfather realized he was truly taking his granddaughter, the daughter part, on this expedition. He asked me if I had my water mucks on my feet. I remember he tilted to look at my feet. Do you have your water mucks? And I responded with so much pride. Yes, Grandpa. And Grandma had me put on my swimsuit this morning with my clothes on top. Now this poor Navy man gave a few choice words to the air, salted with so much flavor only a true sailor might supply. before he stomped off into the house. And this is the moment that I think is really funny, because I stood there, not even realizing he had left, trying to understand what he had said, like it was a deep space math equation, because I'd never heard language quite like that. Now, as I turn and process him coming back, he has swim trunks shoved deep under his armpit, and he's stomping out of the house. And my grandmother, who's super tiny, by the way, this 5-foot little tiny, beautiful woman, just tiny little woman, got her hands on her hips and was laughing, like guffawing in the doorway behind him, just having a good old time at this. What I didn't know then, that I learned later, is that the menfolk in my family normally went saining totally naked. They're wearing water mucks, and that was all they would wear. But because I was a granddaughter, my grandfather had to modify his preparations. And he did it. He did it. You got to give him credit. Totally did it. And with that settled, we went off to the Crow Wing State Park near his favorite saining spot on the mighty Mississippi River, really close to where it bubbles out of the ground. Along the drive, in his big old conversion van, he asked me questions about the gear, how we would do the job ahead of us, what, you know, the way that we did things. He grilled me kind of, but it was in a gentle and teaching tone. And he corrected anything I didn't understand, anything I misheard, or anything I misspoke. And then he explained everything one more time. And I remember listening so hard because I was so happy to be one of the guys. Okay, I was so happy. Now here our story. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit, just to get past. We're gonna get past getting the boat in the water. We're gonna get past getting to his spot for the day of work. We're gonna get us in the water in position. I'm definitely gonna kind of fast forward past that awkward moment where I had to stand in the boat with my back to the shore, where my grandfather shucked his clothes and put on his swim trunks, because we don't need to get into that. Just know that once or twice I heard some more salty and spicy words, and I reflect back now with the understanding that this made me on equal footing with my brothers and cousins, because I was in. I heard the language. I got the words. So as we begin to seine, I'm going to try to explain the process as quickly as I can for those who've never done it. We're going to take our volleyball net in the water and flip it upside down. Remember how the weights were on top as you pictured it? Well, they're on the bottom. And the goal is to put those weights on the surface of the river. Then one person stands in shallowish water up to their knees or so, sometimes their waist, and another person goes out into deep water and walks upstream fighting the current. And then the person in the deep water then meets the other pole together, right? And then you pull the net in. It's very physically demanding. You're pulling the net in toward the center, because you're going to catch all your minnows in the kind of in the center of the net. Okay, does that make sense? Like I said, I hope you're all with me. If not, I'm sorry. I'm trying here. I'm trying to explain this natural process. But in doing this, getting ready to do this, my grandfather took a leap of faith in me. Apparently, he was convinced I knew what I was going to be doing, because he let me / made me, because I was a little scared, go into the deep water side of the net. So I was going to walk upstream fighting the Mississippi current to do this thing. But this was my moment. This was my moment. I was in, I was doing the thing. I was so excited. I can feel the water. It was a little cold, but not too cold. I seined later, much colder. But I can still feel the water kind of rising up my body as I walked with the net, with the heavy weights. As the water came above my waist to my 10-year-old chest neck level, and I can feel the wooden pole in my hands as I pushed it to the bottom of the riverbed, like, because it had to be down there. And I began the slow walk upstream, like out and upstream, toward the other pole my grandfather held. The entire way he talked to me, and I was listening to him, and there was some spice in there. But he also used the same teacher's voice that I learned to adore. I remember the feel of the riverbed under my mucks. It was an odd mix of rocks, slippery mud, and goodness knows what was touching my legs as I went along. However, I just kept repeating the tips in my head and hearing his directions. And as I went forward every little bit, I looked at him and was reassured by his presence as I huffed and puffed along. Okay, 40-foot net, 10-year-old girl walking upstream. But through this all, and before I knew it, I had made it to my grandfather, remember, pole to pole, and we had begun the process of doing the net pull toward us. And in the middle where our minnows were, we were going to sort them because we intended to only keep the minnows we needed and the type that was best for the fishing of walleye, which is what I wanted to fish for and what I wanted to catch and my favorite fish to eat to this day. And I remember my grandfather's hands moving with quickness and like with a surety, right? Like I just remember that he was like, whoop, whoop, whoop. He explained that any minnow that looked heavy with eggs, regardless of what type it was, needed to be returned to the water so that we would always have a cycle of minnows. And I remember my hands feeling like jello, just trying to catch a single one of these things, like, oh my God. And I will never be able to get the job done nearly as quickly as he ever did with the grace of his hands. And that's okay. I got faster, just as I learned all the different types of minnows in different waters because that's important. But when we finished sorting, my grandfather told me we had enough minnows for fishing that day. And I said, we're going to fish tomorrow too. Why don't we just get them for tomorrow too? And he said, we only take what we need because that's how you earn fishing for the day that you do. And I didn't understand it, but I remember going, yes, Grandpa, yes, so wise. I had no idea. I just knew that's what we were going to do. And I just listened to the words of his wisdom in that moment. And this skill and this family art was one of the first milestones in my family that had me doing things that up to that point, only my brothers and male cousins had done. But many of my younger female cousins followed me. These were things that I didn't appreciate then the way I do now. Okay? My internship was so much like this experience, it sort of boggled my mind when I reflected on it. I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to say. I was, and I still am, so excited and eager to do this work and to do it with you. But I did my best to express my excitement by listening to you hard. Both with words and with your actions. I wanted to hear your needs and to let you as a group decide what you needed to teach me. And listening hard was the best way to display my excitement. I remember how before coming here, I read all the books, researched the best that I could, talked to anyone and everyone who would talk to me about both about your congregation, about the region, and about what it was like to be an intern. And even as I went on through my internship, I continually touched base with anyone who was experienced and anyone who could give me advice. I feel like this is the closest thing I could ever get to checking every tie on that net, to being the most prepared I could be to do the work. And I did that here. This internship is a key milestone in a process that takes the average student in America 6 years to complete. It's so important. And when doing something this important, I tried to walk slow, remember what I was taught. I worked as hard as I could to keep my net down and my eyes on my teachers with my ears open. This was you, as a congregation, and as the staff, as my guides. So that when my steps got slippery and something touched my leg, I didn't waste my energy by doing it poorly. that I just kept doing it the best that I could. I learned the different skills from different groups that in the future I will apply. That is the sorting of what I caught in this place, in this space. I want to make the best use of it. I learned which minnows of knowledge might be applied in the best places. And much like an egg-filled minnow, this congregation will be amazing for the next intern you host, I hope, because I want to return that minnow all of that love so that you will be even better the next person who sains your waters. I am thankful for all that I learned. I am humbled by the grace, time, and effort you gave me in my time here. You came to my classes. You gave me feedback with love. And though I never got spicy words in the way of my grandfather, you still taught me your language, which let me know I was in here too. So I thank you for putting on your swim trunks, preparing to take the time to teach me, changing your preparation so I could be included. And I thank you for it all. I will carry you in my ministry forever. And sometime in the future, I will probably tell stories about you, just like I am today, telling you a story about my grandfather. I am thankful for you. I see you, and I love you. Amen.
Oh, my friends. Oh, my dear friend Erien. What a time we've had, and what a time this is. I want you, all of us, to perhaps close our eyes for a minute and imagine sitting in our sanctuary. Sitting in your favorite seat, in your favorite row, with your favorite people around you. That would be all of us, I trust. And imagine that we are able to say in full voice a farewell to Erien. We have some words to share. Cindy is going to voice what the congregation might be saying. It'll be in the chat, and I invite you to say it aloud at home, speak it aloud, so that Erien can imagine your voices coming together and blessing her with the words that Cindy will speak. Erien will have a chance to speak, and then we'll all say, speak again together. So I invite Cindy now to start us off.
Oh boy, sorry. Whew. Erien, we thank you for your time among us. We bid you safe travels on your journey from here. We ask that you continue to speak the truth with love, to give the work of your heart, mind, and hands to the vision of wholeness that we have shared. We set free your ministry to the wider world and wish you adventures and delight as you go on your way. You will always, always be part of us, even though you are far away.
I'm going to take a breath. Beloveds, I thank you for my time here with you. I bid you all safe and whole journeys in the days and years to come. I ask that you continue to support and nourish your community. It's needed. I ask you to continue to give the work of your hearts, your minds, and hands to the ideas we share. I wish you strength. I wish you hope. I wish you compassion as you continue to serve each other and those who surround you. You will always be part of me, and even though we will be far apart, I walk from this place hoping I left you better than I found you, because I am better for having walked with you. Blessings and amen.
It is time. all our journeys continue out from this time. Blessed are the commitments of our lives that call us to community, and blessed are the paths that call us forth into new communities and lives. We promise one another to continue the work of ministry that we have shared here during this time. And we promise to free our spirits and hands to share and extend that ministry in the days and years to come.
My friends, let us breathe together. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathe in peace and breathe out love. Let us breathe in gratitude, the blessings of presence. Presence to us and presence from us. And breathe out the promise and gift of the journey ahead. Let us breathe together. Breathe in and out. Let us breathe in love. And breathe out release. Set free our lives, trusting that we can never be severed from each other. Breathe together, friends, in and out. The gifts of presence and care are never lost. Our lives are ever rich with the blessings of our being together. Let us breathe in gratitude. Breathe out love. Let us pause in this stillness for a few moments. Amen, and so may it be.
For our closing words today, I turn to the trusty Kaiser Sereth, a pagan ritual book of prayer. Each outward breath, a step from their world. Each inward breath, a step toward our own. But each beat of our hearts, their continuing presence within us. Though far away, they will be with us in our soul, and will continue to be so, securing our lives with each beat of our hearts. As the sandcastle dissolves when the tide comes in, the ice sculpture melts with the warming air. Our circle dissipates at the ending of our rites. Each remains in the minds of their creators and in the minds of all who have known them. All are gone, yet all are still here. And I leave you with a final quote. And remember, the force will be with you always. Please join me as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.